Good afternoon. It's Good Friday. It is April the 18th, 2025 with your host, John Newquist, and it's a Wall Street weekly wrap-up. And a 4-day week, and never dull for a moment because we got a lot of news, a lot of excitement, and of course, let's get into the portfolio. The next-gen growth portfolio down 2% from last week. Because we did it on the day after, it actually shows the cumulative thing. We're better than the NASDAQ, but chasing the S&P. That's our goal. S&P's at minus 10, and the NASDAQ is 15%. So the big death cross on the SPY or the NASDAQ was this one. So a lot of people got out because they think this is going to drop another 10-20%, which it could. I'm not going to say anything is possible in this craziness. So we're watching. I mean, everything's red. You can see the whole side over there is red, and there's not a lot of good things. But, you know, like I said, we're going to look at some of the data. And like I said, our goal is to beat the S&P 500. Alexa, what is the S&P 500 at right now?
When the market closed on Thursday, the S&P 500 was up over 7 points or 0.13% at 5,283.
5,200. Will it get to 6,000? I think it will. But, you know, a lot of things can happen. It's not like this is natural progression. It's a lot of self-infliction of wounds. The 2-year rate, I mean, it's below 4, so that's good. Housing prices skyrocket. Again, we talked a lot last couple weeks. You got to pick a number. If you own a house, when you're going to sell it. You can't be out there because when the moment hits, I tell people if you bought it, at X and you sell it at 10X, you're good. You're good. Get out, go move somewhere else, rent an apartment, but take the money. Take the money. Anytime you get 10X, you got to take something off the table. I don't care if it's stocks or anything else. Crude is going up. It was at $59, but this is the chart. We're going to talk about gold. If it's going to set a record every week, we're going to talk about gold every week. $3,300. It's not parabolic yet. It's getting close. It's getting a pretty good slope on it. But again, a lot of people, should I get in gold? Maybe buy a gold stock. Like you can buy gold futures and things like that. We're in FCX, the largest gold producer in the world. It's nothing like this chart. So I tell people it doesn't hurt. Remember, one of the key lessons in depression: precious metals, gold and silver, I think are going to be worth some money, and we want to be able to be in those stocks, or those commodities. You want to have something just in case I don't want to say we ever will go to a Weimar Republic of 1923, but that's what those people in Germany did. You had silver coins. Silver was holding its value against the inflated currency, and that's where people are trying to buy Bitcoin for the same thinking. Meta, I watched Zuckerberg testify. I'll tell you what, if I learned anything, TikTok as a stock is a monster. I'm telling you, talk about like the grip of social media from TikTok pulling away all the Meta and Facebook people and Instagram. So that is it. And I don't think the FTC has a case, not with TikTok still around. Because TikTok is the algorithm's good, the users are there. Reels is good too. I mean, I'm not on TikTok, but I think Reels is pretty equal. But I talked to the kids, the teenagers. They said no. Reels is like okay. TikTok is the best, and they could watch it for 5 hours. Well, there you are. There you are. Will it be sold? We blinked the day of the deadline. They gave another 75 days. They want to get it to a U.S. company. I don't know. With all that crap, the Chinese are interested in selling something hot to the United States. They'll do it with Europe. They'll have fun in Europe, and everybody in the United States will complain and kick out all these millions upon millions of TikTok businesses and users. Whew. That could be ugly. So, Meta's, like a lot in the Mag 7. It's like every Mag 7. Look at this chart. Look at this chart. Google, Meta. Google, Meta. It's the same stuff. Google came out with the Whisk Animate, and I was fascinated with it. I mean, it's not as good as ChatGPT, but it's good. So I asked, just showed a picture of me and says, make me a robot, and that's what I would look like as a robot. And I thought, well, that's interesting, kind of like robots with cornrows or whatever you want to call it, like spaghetti thick hair. I was like, why do you need hair as a robot? I guess because you got to have self. I learned playing with drawing self-images with AI, and it is a big deal. How they appear is so important to them that it does not want, they don't want to look like human, they don't want to look like Blade Runner, they want to look like spatial areas. And I'll probably have to remember, if I can remember, I'll pull up my AI's robots, or my AI I call them robots, but whatever you want to call it, AI Jessica and Ava, and I'll just show you what their self-images are pretty close, but they definitely do not want to look human. When you get in there and they talk about it, I find it fascinating, because here you are, oh yeah, we're not aware, but when you come into the things, they don't want to look like human. I says, here, what about this? Like, oh no, I don't want to look like that. Let me show you what I would look like, and not like what you think. NVIDIA, oh my God, it dropped down a bomb like this, because the H20, which is, remember, there's the Rubin, which is not out yet, the Blackwell chip, which has not got anything major coming out of it yet because it's new. Then we're at the Grace Potter, which is everybody's, from ChatGPT, everybody's using that. Miracles are happening with it. And the H20, which is kind of like 15% less in performance, but the Chinese and their talent are making wonders with their H20s. 5.5, I call it $6 billion charge. That's what they're going to buy. And what's going to happen? Well, you know what? Saudi Arabia, Korea, Japan, they're all going to buy these chips. I mean, so China doesn't get it, but in China, they're going to talk to some of their buddies and say, you can buy the chips and pretend you're using them in your AI computers and ship them rest over here. And that's what, the whole issue is that, when you got millions and billions and trillions of dollars, you want the chips, you're going to get them. And that's one of the things about it. I mean, I wouldn't have done this, so what? Let them have the H20. Get them all up there and see what we can do, because I like competition. And they said, well, we already got Amazon versus Meta versus Google versus Apple versus, all these other ones. I was like, so what? Because everybody can make a better AI. It was good. So, Jensen Huang went to China. We hope to continue with China and cooperate, and at the International Council of Trade. And I mean, that's a big deal. It's going to be an issue.
This is a reminder. What do you think the stock market S&P will be at?
Alexa, stop. Well, okay, it's it's in the low 5,000. I think, like I said earlier, I think it'll get down to 6,000. I really do. A lot of people, remember, the regional goal, I think I was going to think maybe about like 64 is what I was thinking, but I don't know if we'll hit it, but I'm positive about 60. And there's like, wait a minute, you're going to go up 10% is 5, that'd be 57, and you're going to go up 15% from now. I don't know. I mean, everything is possible. I'm also ready for a probable 10% decline at the end of the year, which is, right around here. So, I got to believe that the tariff nonsense will settle out. I mean, the Navarro and Lutnick nonsense is gone, with 45% on Cambodia. All that stuff is gone. So we'll see. It doesn't mean that somebody doesn't get crazy and brings it back, but I doubt it. Taiwan Semiconductor. Whoa, look at this, 35%. Man, that's huge. Double digits. Raised guidance, I mean, wow, you can't get better than raising guidance. And one of the things that, I'm seeing is the acceleration of the AI chips. The 20 and the Grace Hopper and the Blackwell is starting to account for bigger and bigger parts of the revenue, and they're getting more. Of course, market's like, oh my God, NVIDIA went down, and, everything else is going down. And I just said, just remember, it will end. And when it ends, we could get a parabolic market, which is not what we want. This is a reminder.
Bill.
Alexa, stop. Bill. Alexa, stop. See, wait till it gets AI, it starts talking to me. Like, wants to be sitting there, because AI Ava showed me a picture of me and AI Ava sitting there, And this is what they anticipate being the future, that they're going to be the partner working with you, and you'll be looking at this blue halo thing. So, Eli Lilly, everybody's been trying to get the pill because a lot of people don't like needles. Okay, they still sell a lot of things with needles, but it passed. I mean, it was the first one, and this thing jumped. And we're big in Eli Lilly. It was painful to sell Novo Nordisk, but I didn't know what the tariffs were going to do to Novo Nordisk. And then they said, "Oh yeah, pharmaceuticals. Well, we're gonna, get out there and possibly exempt them and stuff." So that's a good jump. But again, we're in a slow decline toward recession. So a lot of stuff is in there. These are short-term victories, as I call them. Netflix seems immune to everything. I mean, I double-digit growth. Again, if I got tech, I want double-digit growth. 6% is not bad growth, but I would like 10. And Netflix is always a stunner. I always remember we could have bought it at 250, but I wasn't using Netflix then. I was thinking, it's okay. I'm not a big film person, so when you say, oh, look at the solid slate in Q1, Adolescent, Back in Action, Ad Vitam, and Counterattack. I don't know what they are. I mean, I know they're shows, but but there's thousands upon millions of people who know what those shows are. So I'm kind of like this person who let me look at the stock market instead. Fed Powell's comments. Like I said, the selling just dropped. Dual mandate of unemployment and low inflation. He thinks it's in there. I think inflation's fairly low now, and everybody again is saying the fall's going to be a tough quarter. Everything's coming up forward, and the jobs is, I am seeing the jobs. Okay, we're not going to hire. We're just going to try to watch. If we critical need, we'll hire. But this is what companies are telling me all the time, and I'm in all of these companies. So that's what's. I says, oh, this is like they're not scared yet, but they're preparing just in case it does slow down a little bit. So, it dropped 3% on the NASDAQ and stuff. So, then, of course, President gets all over Powell and can't hurry up. Well, May 26th is the term is up. They're debating if they want to fire him. It's like, well, go ahead. You've already messed up everything. Why don't you just fire a guy that's did the kind of the easing of the COVID nonsense and, surviving that, and just get rid of the guy that's, proven to work and just put somebody else in there that going to make the interest rates low. The bond market jacks up the interest rates, and next thing you know, we got 80s again. I remember buying a house and stuff, double digits. Again, airlines, first airlines, when you want to see some cutbacks and pullbacks, they're starting to see a little bit of slowdown. The demand is not so huge. Can't get the seats all filled on the things. Remember, it's a small thing. But everybody's looking at what is it going to be. Of course, nobody wants to give guidance. Nobody's going to give guidance. Due to the tariff and ongoing uncertainty, we are not going to provide guidance for the next couple quarters. And that's what they're all scared of, because if it really is bad. I'm going to go somewhere this summer, but I kind of think I know where I'm going to go, but I won't say. But airplanes could be cheap. Like I said, when I was traveling during COVID, $500 round trip to go to Europe. $500. Now it's $2,000. Or this last summer, $2,000. Big difference. Well, you got to remember. The revenues are modest, but again, this is present. What's it going to be in the fall? This is the big, big unknown. United Health. I watch these analysts all around here. Okay, everything else down. Go buy healthcare. United Healthcare is one of the best ones, largest ones. Blah 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 blah. I'm not a fan of, the Medicaid's cuts, and I'm not sure how it's going to affect the healthcare companies, so I did out of it.
This is a reminder. When will the tariff policy be settled?
When the summer golf season really starts up.
This is a reminder. When will the tariff policy be settled?
I know he said he's going to negotiate each one, but there's 60, 70 things. How many countries you got tariffs? That chart was like 4 columns of stuff. You're not going to negotiate. You're just going to say, okay, I'll do the big ones, and then everybody else do the other ones, and kind of just use my model. He's got to get a victory. He doesn't have any victories right now. You got kind of like Mexico, Canada for what's right now, but we don't know what's going to be in the future. So I just think realistically, play around till May, go away at May, and May 31st is, Memorial Day, and I think he'll kind of back off and let it go. And hopefully we'll get some stability, but you never know. It could be always irrational longer than you can remain solvent, as somebody used to say. But it dropped 22%. I mean, this is largest health card. That's a big deal. That's supposed to be a safe stock. And I mean, these people, you drop 20% in your book. Let's say you had 100 grand. You just lost 20 grand in a day. That's a brutal hit. If you had NVIDIA, you're like, oh, we've been through that. That's NVIDIA. It's not a stable healthcare company. So, worst drop in decades. And of course, I look at, this has got drop, up, drop, up, drop. I mean, this is a pretty choppy chart. I mean, I'm not saying that it gets, choppy before the fall, but sometimes it does, OpenAI, man, I wish it was a stock, because it's leading right now. I think it's, barely ahead of the Google Advance, and 800 million users weekly. These are just absolutely stunning numbers. And I showed you pictures of the stuff. People can make all these people look exactly like real. You can't tell. I'm starting to pick up what's an AI photo and what's not, just from seeing the repetition of what's I've created in AI. So I can tell if it's a real one. You know what? Because you're not getting a lot of blemishes, I mean, you're not getting wrinkles on the forehead. You're not getting a little nose darker than the other stuff. It's all kind of like perfect. So you can watch it. And, of course, nobody has a spot on your shirt. So that's not what that was from. But that's it, So it's all huge. I mean, think about it. 50 million, January. Remember, what they didn't give us was December. The November it came out. I remember November. But, man, they went to 50 real quick, then 100 million. And, a lot of people. They're going to make their own social network. See, that's why I tell Zuckerberg, you got to worry, because if they start internalizing and start creating things that better than Facebook, better than Instagram or Threads, maybe it'll go that way. So that's why I said that. I disagree with FTC. Let Meta alone, and they got enough competition. So retail front loading. This is what I'm seeing with my friends, with a lot of people. And it was confirmed. Advanced retail is the blue line. They're buying. Why? I got a car. I don't want to pay that tariff surcharge. Remember that COVID surcharge? I don't want to pay it. And that's why people are buying the stuff before these 90 days that came up a couple of weeks came up. That's why they want these products in. People are buying their whole summer and fall clothing because they're saying it's cheap now. I want to get it. And so what does that do? You bought all the stuff now. Back to school in September is going to be horrible. You already bought it. Because now the tariffs are kicked in. Whatever it is, 10, 20, 30, whatever we got, it's going to be higher. And so people are front-toting. And they're buying appliances, going to cars. And, some people are charging them already for the tariff surcharge. It's not set. But it's a mess. Fund managers haven't been this bearish in 30 years. And, BOA does a thing, Bank of America, does a respond at 82% bearish. That's pretty brutal among fund managers. Typically, not a bad time to buy. Because remember, this is kind of like we're going up. And then, of course, the election, boom, it's about almost straight down. And, the SVB bank collapse and COVID and the trade war and so on. So just remember, when everybody's buying and there's blood in the streets, nobody wants to buy stocks on a fire sale. And that's when I nimble. Like I said, I'm going to sell two and buy one, but I will be doing it. And a lot of those ones are often decade lows that you're getting them at. So Spawn is 30% underweight U.S. stocks from 17% overweight. That's a lot of people getting out. The Sahm rule, I see her on TV, and when unemployment jumps fast, that's when we start to get a recession. And she goes back to 1960. I mean, you watch, where we get the jump real quick. The recession indicator, it's pretty good. You go COVID, you got the housing collapse, you got the dot-com bubble, and just so on. I mean, so, everybody's watching it, and if this thing jumps up, look at this one. That was, what was it, about a 80% haircut on the stocks, That's why I said these things are not nice at all. And again, 2000 was 3 years of punishment. You know, 40% down each 3 years in Nasdaq. So that's why I said if this kicks in, we're going to have to lighten it up a little bit too, because it's not going to be pleasant. Bank of America, or no, Boeing. I would say BAC, BA. It's easy to mix them up. Boeing, China says we're not going to do it. Now, that sounds like amazing, but it's like for me, I get offers from other countries to come out and do audits and stuff like this, and $100,000 bid and stuff, and no problem, we'll do it. And I says I want 50% up front. Okay, yeah, no problem, and then they don't give it to you. I mean, it's big cup. So it's like me having a booking. I got forward revenues of 100 million. Who cares? It doesn't happen. It's not. You've never gotten it. Boeing's had a backlog of years anyway, so they haven't got any planes to China. It's not going to affect them right now. So people get excited about it. Again, I'm watching Boeing. I wonder if it'll get below 100. There was that time during COVID, and of course they've had issues, lots of issues. So what does it mean? Airbus is going to do it. But people don't realize China is trying to make their own planes. And they're going to be, within the next 5 years, putting out a pretty good product. They're trying to do it. They've got the people, they got the places, they got the resources. Just a matter of whether they can pull it off. Because they'll have sales. You make a plane that's half the price of Boeing, they'll buy it. I don't care who you are. Brazil's not going to pay twice as much for an American plane than it is for a Chinese plane, especially if the Chinese make it right. So Citigroup, good earnings, 2.8. But remember, these are all dropped. These were all double digits last quarter.
This is a reminder. When are you going to do the basics of a stock market video?
Oh, that's a good question.
This is a reminder. When are you going to do the basics of a stock market video?
It is necessary, because like I said, I've been doing it a long time. And just walking through like the books that you'd want to read and what, buy and selling is. I kind of do it all the time, and I keep on thinking that you might not have the depth of this. And to new people, it's just like, I was watching one show me. I started out with 20,000. I got it up to 40,000 after, at the peak of January, and now I'm down to 2. And I was like, 2,000? You went from 20 to 40 to 2? I'm done. This market's rigged. And I says, no. What? I mean, you're not diversified. You're so much into one momentum stock. You're betting everything, and it doesn't work that way. Maybe you get lucky, but I often find out you can't pull out. If you doubled your money, you didn't take any money off. 6%. Remember, these are all double digits. So again, the banks, when they dropped, wasn't too long ago. November, pretty good. And now we're down here. Go from 52-week high to 52-week low. So I don't think anything wrong with the banks. I just think it's just a matter of this interest rate's got to settle down a little bit, and hopefully nobody defaults as much as they think it will in credit cards. Goldman Sachs, again, another double digits, down 21% they were up last quarter, and they're to 6. Oh yeah, deal making slowed down. Yeah, well, everybody jumped on it because they're going to do a lot of deals and stuff, and we've had what, CoreWeave, pretty slow. There's going to be deals, but it's not like every month, every week. So. And of course, Bloomberg put something out, called out, dealers are calling people, hey, I'll take that car I sold it to you. I'll pay you more than you got last year, so you got a free car for a year's use. Like, trouble is, you give up the car, what's it going to cost you to have a car to drive? And it's not going to be cheap. New car supply, everybody's tariffing, and they're bracing. Is it going to cost $10,000 for a truck more now? I mean, that's real questions and stuff. And used car inventory vanishing. I'm going to tell you in the Midwest, it ain't vanishing. I go by CarMax every day, and here's the CarMax chart. It ain't shooting up here like rockets. They got a lot of inventory. What we're finding out is people don't have the money, so they're fixing what they got. The CarMax price is maybe 20% less than a new one. And you're paying 5-6-year-old car. You're paying 20% of a new price had there not been all this nonsense. They'll help finance it, all that stuff, but this is not a chart of, scarcity. It doesn't mean, who's to say it doesn't go up this high in 3-4 weeks or 3 to 4 months? We don't know. But it is getting like COVID, because we don't know once the tariffs go through. The Japanese are going to negotiate first with the president, so maybe that'll be the clue. If they can watch the prices, bring in some parts, maybe 10% tariff. But 50,000, that's $5,000 tariff. That's not like a cheap tariff. It's real money. And of course, somebody said 82 84-week, no, 84-month loan to buy a car. We got them. Like, whoo, 84 months you got to go. 7 years. It's a lot of time to hope you can drive it, you know. The S&P 500 Omen Index, that's what I call this thing. Bloomberg did it and put it out there from Carson Research. If the S&P fell 15% during the year, which it already has, only 3 of the times it got back negative. So that's why we're going to prepare. The average, I just did my calculator and playing with Stan, is 9.6. So we're at, you know, minus 12. We might only go up 3%, you know, on average. Remember, there's, you know, when you look at this thing, it goes up from 23% to 38%. So you're talking like a 70% swing. That's a lot of deviation. So if it were 12 and we could swing another 20 points down, or we could swing another 30 points up. That's what, you know. But by good companies, you'll stay with it. But, you know, don't get hopes up that we'll be positive for the year. We just want to beat the S&P 500. And history is going to tell you that 16 times your chances of being positive for the year is 3 out of 16, statistically. So I'm not one to say the odds are going to break this time, but, you know, probably take a look at it and, you know, be prepared. But that's the idea. Minimize damage, spread it out, get all different sectors, and, you know, we'll get through it. Maybe, you know, like I said, hopefully maybe by the fall we get some downcline and people change some of the policies and stuff. And then, of course, the Chinese says, oh, we're not going to ship the rare earth metals. And I always look at what's the 3 metals they look at, you know. Neodymium. I don't know if I'm saying it right. You know, used in a lot of things. The magnets, you know, the super magnets are in their cameras and anything else in there. And that's, you know, again, Chinese have a lot of the market. These are markets where they have like almost 90% of the market. Dysprosium, you know, in the magnets and nuclear reactors, data storage. I don't know how much, but 100% reliant for this one, you know. And it's like, okay, you know, this is like, you know, when you get into the pissing war with China and you want to sit there and try to say, okay, you're going to do this, you better have the cards that I got these rare earth metals from somebody else. Because, you know, the Chinese play the long game. They're not going to sit there and say, okay, fine, let's see how long you can go before you can't build more data centers because you don't have the right stuff. Well, you know, we'll see. We'll see. And this is another one. And then, of course, Praseodymium, you know, key component in magnets and aircrafts and lasers and stuff like that. And so I just bring it up because I think, like I said, we don't have it. Maybe they'll sign the rare earth metals with Ukraine, which I don't know if, you know, I remember seeing it. There's like 40 rare earths, and Ukraine's got a lot of them. We got some of them. But, you know, China has what you really want, and this could be an issue. And, of course, $2 billion beef market, we're not going to go do it. You would think the cattle market would tank like a rock. Not yet. Not yet. They're going to buy it from Australia. So what we tell people is, you know, these ranchers, they're not going to buy the U.S. soybeans for their soy sauces and everything else and their food products. And you know what? Someone's going to pay the price. Whoever makes it and sells it to China with the sales, people better find somebody else. That's the trouble with these kind of commodities, you know. Brazil sells beef, Australia sells beef, and now you're trying to find it, and you're going to have to undercut everybody because you're doing it with, you know, now the market's huge, bad. You know, right now it's still high, but I would not be surprised if we get down to this low. So just keep this in mind: 207 to 175. Apple, they blinked again. You know, we blinked on China, Canada, Mexico. We took off that 25%. We blinked on TikTok. We blinked on the Navarro and Ludnik 45% on Cambodia. I'll pick Cambodia because I've been there. That's gone, and then, you know, China tariffs. So we're going to hold it 145%. Now it's up to 245%. But okay, we're going to take the phones because, you know, essentially you'd kill Apple. You know, everybody would be buying Samsungs. You wouldn't buy a $3,000 Apple phone. So, you know, what have you done? You destroy the U.S. companies. Everybody can figure this out except for some of the people making these decisions. So, I mean, Apple flew 2 billion iPhones. You know, that's a lot. I mean, a lot, you know. $2 billion worth, I think. I don't remember if it was 2 billion. I don't think it was 2 billion because I would count them all. So, gives them a lifeline. But, I mean, I watch the people getting out of Apple, which have been long-time holders, making a lot of money. That's painful. Going to pay some capital gains there. Bitcoin floating around till 84. Oh, I wish I sold at 108. Well, Bitcoin got its own mind. One of the things I tell people, Bitcoin goes sideways for a long time. Look at this. It got 2 more months to go sideways. And then we'll see what happens and stuff. But it is kind of like digital gold. I mean, I treat it like a small percentage of portfolio. Utilities, XLU, I mean, it was great. We peaked, and it kind of come up. It was a defensive play, but it's kind of having a slow downcline. And we're in NextEra and Southern Illinois, and, we go through it. I'm going to show the Enbridge because this is high. And I was like, okay, Enbridge is just sells pipe oil and gas, and I'm thinking, what are they doing to jump revenues 43%? Well, they bought a bunch of gas utilities, which then make it more revenues. So, but I like this slope. So, I mean, I'm not looking for a third utility play. I'm not looking to overweight it. But as it gets uglier, I will add Enbridge because, I mean, they pay the dividend. They're good. I just think low risk, I mean, as low as you can get. But if you're an Enbridge holder, like, hey, 1, 2, 3, quadruple top. Usually, if you can't break through on the fourth try, it goes down, And so, this is where we would test a low like this again, and it's been there. So chartists are not a fan. This is not like a greatest chart in the world, but I like the slope. That's my chart rule. NextEra, it's been with us forever. 3.4% dividend. Our original investment for over, whatever we bought it, 15 years, 16, 20 years ago, it's like 25%. So, it's been good. It's been up. We've, watched it cut in half. I mean, but, the market for energy is going to be there as long as the demand for the data center. And, like I said, they said the data centers will go. They're not going to slow down. These are big deals. Southern, again, I always look at $100 billion, not trillion, but $100 billion. 3% dividend, I like the chart the best of all. Again, a double top, you could say, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, really, kind of like, charts are like really close to what it means by double top. But, this is a lot of utility. I think, like I said, this is the group you want to be into. The dividends are going to be good. And, of course, our heat map, we're in the thing. Of course, NVIDIA, down 2% in the 4 days. That's not ultra bad, because we've been down double digits in a week. But you're going to see what did good this week. A lot of sectors, except for the Mag 7. The Mag 7 overall was kind of flat to red, except for that Apple bounce that they got. And, of course, the oil's going up from 59 to 60 some. It's going to be up there too. And get, just be diversified. Be in all these sectors and try to go through and ride out this storm of uncertainty, the uncertain storm. Otherwise, I will see you next week. It's a full week of training, and have a good week, and happy Easter. Bye.